Hello, Richard. Nice to meet you.
Hello, nice to meet you.
What role does the church play in the life of the community here?
Well, it doesn't really play much of a role these days, I'm afraid, because, so you've got, it's an interesting question. It actually takes quite a long time to answer it properly. But, so historically, we've obviously got the Church of England, which is an established church. So, in other words, that's the kind of church that everybody thinks of. And the king is the head of the Church of England. Whether that's right or wrong, another matter, but that's the fact of it. So people would tend to think of the Church of England being the main church, whereas this is a Baptist church. So in the past, there's been lots of aggro between the two, nationally, and also in Europe as well, wherever there's been the two. And some of those things are, you know, for the argument is for good reasons, but mostly it's probably for bad reasons. But we had a thing here where, there was a building up the road which is now being made into a house, which was originally a school. And what happened was the Baptist children would go there, and then there was a problem. So the Baptists decided they would start educating their children themselves, and we've got a room downstairs. It was the whole length. So the width of this building, it runs from that end to that end. It was one big room. That was a schoolroom. But then in the Victorian era, a law came in because they believed that disease was up in the ceiling. So they made these very high ceilings. So if you see a Victorian house in Britain, they've got very high ceilings. And that means that room no longer was legal. So they built the school. There was a little cottage they bought there, and they built the school in the garden. So that school next door was originally the Baptist school. And then, so the church was running that school. And then what happened is, as things sort of dwindled, they struggled to keep it going and to pay for it. So the local education authority came along and said, don't worry, we can take the school off you, we'll pay for it, and we'll pay the teachers. And, you know, so for 100 years, the LEA have used that school. So that connection kind of broke. It was interesting when we first came here, the headmaster actually said, oh, we should work together, you know, church and the school, which was great, but unfortunately he didn't last for very long. He went after about a year, so it didn't really work. So people wouldn't look to the Baptist church as a place to go. I mean, people here generally, without wishing to criticise them, I can understand it, is that they have worked hard and then they want to retire, and that's it. That's what they want, and that's what they've got. So they don't want to know about God or salvation or eternity, and you can't talk to them about their soul, those kind of things that are really important as far as I'm concerned. So it's very hard. And as a church, so it's always been a struggle here. The last pastor struggled. He worked 4 days a week. He was a car mechanic, and then he would do his pastoral duties as well, which was quite hard to do. So when I came in 2003, we decided we'd be full-time because that was the only what was needed. But it was still very hard to break through and make any meaningful impact. But then a few years ago, so around lockdown time, 2020-21, we started growing, and it was young men, young English men coming. So white English males, which, you know, you wouldn't necessarily think they'd be the first people to go to church. And several of them came, very, very strong Christians. And we were built up to quite a big number. We were sort of 20 plus regularly, which was quite a lot for us. And then, but unfortunately, we've lost all those people. They've gone to another church in Cheltenham. In fact, the one where my wife was when I met her. So so it's very, very hard going here. And to be honest with you, to keep an historic building like this that's so big going, if you wanted to start a church, you wouldn't start it here, and you wouldn't start with a building this size. So it's really an historical anomaly, which is hard. You know, you don't want to just give it up. But we soldier on and do our best, really.
Richard, thank you very much.
Okay.
yeah, we're standing in the brewery right now.
Yeah.
It's not a big brewery, but maybe one of the bigger size breweries of a micro brewery. So we produce about 50,000 litres of beer a year.
Wow.
What we're looking at now is the brewery kitchen.
Okay.
And we're actually brewing today. And the first process is to take our raw ingredients. The main ingredient is barley, and it's malted barley from the farm. And you can see some sacks over there of our malted barley.
Yeah.
And the first stage is to mix it again with water, hot water, and enzymes in the malt convert starch into sugar. And that's what's happening here. This is called the mash tun, and that takes about an hour and a half for those sugars to convert. And if you want to, we can go up and have a look inside.
Yes, if it's possible.
Be careful.
Yeah. Wow.
So what you're seeing is the water spraying on the top, that's sparging and rinsing out all the sugar that is available. So it's just going through the barley grain and getting as much sugar as possible. And that sugar solution is known as malt or malt extract.
Yeah.
And you can see here, that's now coming out of this mash tun. It's being pumped, you can see it through the glass, and that's going into the next vessel, the copper. It's called a copper because they used to be made out of copper, but you can see this is stainless steel. And this is basically a big boiler. So it has a gas burner with a coil, and it brings the sugar solution, the malt extract, to the boil. And then as it's boiling, the next step is to add hops. And you can see here some hops. And the hops are like the spice in your curry. They give the flavors and the aroma. So the malt extract is the main body. These gives the flavor and aroma. We then take a hose from here, and when it's finished boiling, we chill it down, and it pumps into these vessels. So you can see these hoses on the floor. We will connect to the copper, and we'll fill any of these vessels with our still sweet, but now hopped liquid. And then we add yeast. And yeast is a single-celled fungus. It lives everywhere there's sugar, and it loves sugar, and it eats it up and produces carbon dioxide gas and alcohol. And depending on the style of the beer, a traditional cask beer will spend about 1 week in the tank to finish fermenting. But then we do something like a lager or pilsner that can spend 4 to 6 weeks in the tank. So different beers, different times. But a traditional cask beer will spend 1 week in the tank, then we rack it, we siphon into casks, and you can see a traditional cask outside like this. And what we do is we stop the beer from fermenting by chilling, and we want to chill it with a little bit of sugar remaining in the beer. And when we put it in the cask and close them, the fermentation finishes inside the cask, produces carbon dioxide, makes pressure in the cask, and then that carbonates, it gives bubbles to the beer inside the cask. So that's the traditional UK way of producing beer. And then this beer will be delivered by gravity. You put a tap in and just make a hole in the top, and gravity will serve the beer. And that's with a traditional hand pour. So that's cask beer. We also do kegs. So we do, the lager styles or craft beer styles, and then these use carbon dioxide to push the beer out of the keg.
You are not bottling.
We're not bottling. Over here we have a small canning machine. You can see if you look at the top here. We buy empty cans, and again it's a hose pipe from the tank into the machine, and the beer goes directly into the machine. I can show you. If we can, if we come this way, we can see it from here. Good morning, Manuel.
Good morning.
So it's a very simple process. You have here's a pallet of empty cans.
Yeah.
We place them onto the round turntable. The cans feed in. They have a little squirt of carbon dioxide to remove oxygen from the can. And then where you see the cans, those are the probes that fill the cans with beer.
Yeah.
You can see the little hose pipes.
Yeah.
A lid falls on, and then the next part of the machine seals the lid and closes the can. Then it has a small shower to wash the beer off.
Yeah.
Then it has a blow dry, like a hair dryer, to dry the can. It goes through, a label is put on, and then we pack the boxes by hand. So it's a very manual process. And then we have a product that looks, we have a can, here we are. A finished can, like that, one of our products. And this is Hop Drop, which is our craft style, very hoppy, organic beer.
Okay. My last question to you, Greg, is when will your beer be available in Germany?
In Germany? It's an interesting question. We've done a little bit of export before. Brexit wasn't great for us, but we're looking at it again. And in fact, in this last couple of weeks, I've been working with our UK trade advisor to see if we can start selling a bit of beer to Europe. But my priority markets at the moment are Italy, Switzerland and the Nordics, because they're just a little bit easier and it's about price at the final point. But if you think there's a market in Germany for organic craft beer, I'll give it a go.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, right.
Objects and landscapes are an important theme for your paintings. How did it come about?
So, this series came about, this series that I've done recently about the pebbles and the beach comes about because I've got, I'm spending quite a lot of time down in Devon.
Can you show some?
Yeah. So, this is I think I put these three together. Yeah. And some of these objects go back a long time. This I picked up in Spain. It's a little milagros, charm thing, religious symbol. But this funny sort of horse symbol is actually a plastic toy, part of a plastic toy horse that I found on the beach. And I don't know why, but I've put them, I'm putting them together. And this is this little thing found from the beach. So I use these things, and to me that starts to indicate a tree, even though it's just a piece of a reed or
You haven't worked on it. It wasn't that.
It was just like that. Just like that. And I don't change things. This. So some of the, I don't know where that painting is. Maybe downstairs. This, also from the beach. Yeah. Then in my painting downstairs becomes the horse's tail, so that's attached. So I play really, and I try not to overthink it. Yeah. I just, I'm just looking around for things to put together, and they start to tell some sort of weird story for me. Yeah. Sometimes things are from my imagination. These are, I'm thinking, pink tights. Yeah. I got that little piece of wire. That's quite. I'm not sure. I haven't got the pink. This is a tiny little piece of wire that I found. Yeah. Really tiny, squashed. It was in the curb on the side of the road, and I started trying to draw it quite accurately. But actually I couldn't do it. This is done with oil pastel. It's quite crude. You can't get a fine line with it. And as I was drawing it, and it was sort of unravelling in the process of drawing, I thought actually that starts to indicate something to me to do with the tide. The tide comes in and out. There's waves. There's a rhythm. There's you know, that. So I started thinking of it more as water. So it starts to symbolise something for me.
But it doesn't have a clear meaning.
No.
It's just an emotion, is it correct? Or what?
It may be when it's done, it has some sort of emotion. But I really, when I'm doing them, particularly with this series, I really tried not to think about it. I really just tried to be very intuitive and just go, okay, that works here. I'm thinking Devon landscape's very green. This part of Devon has very red rocks. And then I started thinking, well, this can be symbolise the water, and really not thinking much beyond that, just trying to keep it open, I suppose. So there's a whole series of these that I did over a period of time. I reused some of the symbols, some of the objects. And I just tried to do them quickly. This is a piece of burnt wood that actually is on the shelf there. It's that.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it looks like a cliff. So there it goes.
I like.
There it is. Here's my tail.
I felt a little bit ashamed because I saw your pictures and my first thought was, it's beautiful. But my second thought was, what for? What is the meaning? And
Yes.
But it's not a problem for you when people say, I don't understand it, but I like it.
It's good if... I mean, I know that they're odd. You know, they're odd and people... So, yes, you want some sort of emotional response. Quite a lot of people find it quite difficult to...
Excuse me.
Okay.
You have to make it this way.
Okay. To relate to them, you know, they're a bit strange. Here's my horse again. Here, he's got a tail.
Yeah. Do you keep your objects?
Yes.
They are somewhere in the house. I mean, here, this horse piece.
He's in a box somewhere.
Yeah,
I haven't seen him. No, I haven't seen him for a little while. I have to because the space is so small that I've had to put things away a lot. So I've got these boxes all down here are full of little bits and pieces. Yeah. And I tend to, when they're put away, I tend to forget them. Yeah. So, there it is.
Oh, yeah. So tiny.
Yes, it's tiny. And that was, you know, I go back to the beach thinking maybe I'll find the rest of him one day.
Yeah.
So some of the things I've had a long time. This little head, I dug up in the garden in Los Angeles.
You were digging and then it came. Mm-hmm. Some child have thrown it away and great.
Yeah. What else is there?
What this bird you haven't found?
That bird was in... So I worked in an art centre in Los Angeles, and they had this collection of things that were going to go into... there was a craft. It was for crafts, you know, and they were making Fabergé eggs, actually. And there was a whole, you know, they were giving them away, and I thought, oh, I quite like that bird. Yeah, that he was also from Los Angeles. This
the
cowboy, a lead toy. I think I probably dug him up and put my fork, the garden fork, through the middle of him, which was a shame, but there we are. So yeah. And they'll, you know, I sort of use them. So he has been in a recent painting, I think, over here. Sorry, he's just here, I think. My cowboy. This is the pebble. It's from the beach is called Budleigh Salterton. So this is the Budleigh pebble, but actually I didn't like it looking like a pebble, so I made it into a thing that looks like the sky and just left this pattern.
Yeah.
These stones have these funny sort of veins going through them. But yeah,
Excellent.
he became part of it. Oh, there's the bird.
Yeah.
Quite like this sort of, there can be quite sort of odd and disturbing, really. That hand is a bit weird. Found that in a car park. What else have I got?
I have a question for you, Susan.
Uh-huh.
You spent your life for art, more or less. Can you make a living from it?
No.
Not.
No. Simple answer. I can't make a living. I was teaching art. So I suppose, I was teaching drawing. I did an MA in drawing fairly recently, and then I started using the teaching.
Yeah.
Before that, I was working. Well, I taught in Los Angeles in an art centre.
Yeah.
And then I decided that I wasn't going to do that anymore, and I got more of an admin job. And I was Damien Hirst has lots of, or he did have quite a big studio set up along this valley, the Stroud valleys, and I got a job in a distribution warehouse, and I worked 3 days a week there for quite a long time, and it suited me really well. But then I went back to the teaching in the end after I did my MA. Yeah.
I have a last question, Susan. It's a question I stole from the German filmmaker Hermann Waske. I've never heard of him, but it's interesting. And his question is, why are you creative?
Why am I creative? I think for quite a lot of reasons. I don't know, when you've done it a long time, you don't really think about why you do it any longer. But it does help me make sense of the world in some weird way. It helps me keep, even though they're odd, it keeps me grounded, I think. Which seems a bit strange, but
no,
it does. I think it's almost like, some people do meditation or they do yoga or they whatever. I do this. I find it very absorbing. And I used to really love the teaching because it's, the students used to say, because I was teaching observational drawing, that then made them look at the world differently. They started to really kind of notice things, and then when they went to exhibitions, they looked at how the things were made, and that kind, mark making and things like that. It just, to me, it makes life more interesting.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you very much.